Here we are. I finally did it. Welcome to episode 1 of my podcast. I am so excited, also kind of nervous. Also, I just don't know what to expect. So, first off, for a quick introduction, I'm going to try to be good and introduce myself because I feel like I'm just going to get so excited and just try to get into the why behind why we're even here at a podcast. But my name is Kennedy Davis. I'm 22. I live in Central California with my husband and my 4-month-old son now. He just turned 4 months old a couple of days ago, and he is just the best. His name is Dawson. My husband and I have been married for 2 years, and little Dawson joined the party in July, and just the whole journey of becoming parents has just been the best. It has been so much fun. It has been so unexpected, and it has been just way more and way sweeter than I think my husband and I could have ever dreamed. And so as we're getting into this podcast, what it means, what it stands for, why it's here, why it exists, and all of the things, parenthood and becoming a mom is a huge heartbeat in just this podcast and these conversations. And my hope and prayer is that it can just shine light on an area of something that I feel like in our culture is a little bit overlooked. And so, welcome to the Mom Chats podcast. Mom Chats podcast is something that it was just kind of an idea that was born out of like a huge misconception I had in my mind. The long name of this podcast is Misconceptions of Motherhood. Why motherhood is so much more than we could ever dream and not what we thought, but in the best way. And so Misconceptions of Motherhood shortened is Mom Chats, because who doesn't love a good nickname? And so this podcast is really here to provide a resource and outlet to have conversations and just to kind of shine a light on something that I feel like is a commonly complained about role in our society, and that is motherhood/parenthood as a whole. And so my hope and prayer in and through this podcast is that it can be an encouragement and just really shine a light on just the really beautiful mundane parts that come with being a parent, that come with motherhood, and all the things in between. And so kind of what this podcast is going to be based off of, the foundational question that I'm going to ask people that kind of come on to have conversations is, what is a lie that you believed coming into motherhood? And then on the flip side, what is something that you have learned throughout motherhood that was just completely unexpected? And so in kind of kicking off this podcast and laying the ground in this first episode, I am going to answer that and kind of shine light on a little bit of where I was coming from and a little bit of like unlearning I've had to do in the last 4 months of learning to become a mom and all the things. And straight just disclaimer, being honest from the gate, I am not obviously saying this from a place of like, oh, I have answers, I figured things out. Not at all on a learning curve, all the things. But this has been something that I've just kind of been like unraveling as I have become a mom. So one of the biggest lies I feel like I believed in becoming a mom is like, okay, when you become a mom, it's going to be great. You're going to have a kid, but like your life is kind of over. Like all of your attention, all of your energy, all of your focus, all the things goes to the kid. You can't really do anything for yourself, which yes, I guess is sort of true to an extent, but I feel like it is also totally not true, because you can do everything that you would do before with a kid. You just have to like, takes more planning, it takes more coordinating, it takes all the things. And so I feel like I definitely went into motherhood with this mindset of just like, okay, it's going to be a grind, it's going to be hard, like it's just going to be like focus, get through the first, 18 years of your kid's life, and then you'll be able to like breathe a little bit. And so something I didn't really realize, and I think what I was just fed and the voices that I was hearing and what I was seeing on social media really caused me to go into becoming a mom with this mindset of just like, okay, like it is what it is. It's going to be a grind. It's going to be rough, but it's okay because you have a kid, right? That's all you've ever wanted. But I think in becoming a mom and getting to realize that like, yes, it is hard, and you got to figure out, there takes a little bit more coordinating to do all the things, but you can do everything that you did before with a kid. It just takes a little bit more planning and a little bit more coordinating. Your life is not over. It's the best. It's just a new dynamic and a new season. And so that's something huge that I believed going into motherhood of like, okay, my life is going to be over. I just got to put my head down and grind for 18 years. And slowly over the course of the last 4 months, I've been getting to relearn that and kind of get to adjust to the new reality of life, which definitely takes a lot more time, but is just the best. And something sweet that I didn't expect going into motherhood is, of course, you're so excited to have your kid and meet your kid and learn all the things about your kid. But something that I didn't expect was just how fun it was going to be to do those regular daily mundane tasks, whether it's going to the store, working out, hanging out with friends, fill in the blank, whatever it is, but getting to do that with your kid. I had no idea how fun and exciting that would be to get to bring your kid along to your routine and your life and all the things, which has just been the sweetest. It's been amazing. It's been so fun just to get to see life that was just so normal and routine and mundane in and through Dawson's eyes, which is the best. So that is kind of like the foundation of where this podcast is coming from. I always kind of felt something. I didn't know what that something would be. And lately, as I've just kind of been like processing these feelings of the Lord and like how it's not what I expected, but also so much more than I could have ever dreamt, being a mom and everything like that. And as I've told friends who are either moms or becoming moms or who have been moms, whatever it is, friends in all different seasons, I feel like it's a common conversation that comes up of like, wow, I didn't think of it like that. Or, oh my gosh, that's so real. Like I've realized that too. I don't know, different perspectives that have come into it. I just feel like this is a very common thing of in our culture, especially with a lot of voices through social media, complaining around the idea of motherhood and being a parent and the grind and the mundane and the parts that aren't that attractive is something that is very common, unfortunately. And so just as I went into being a mom with like this tainted mindset of like, okay, it's going to be like all these things, here are my expectations, which were all, false and got to be turned on their head in the best way. I feel like what I didn't have a lot of was like the positive, encouraging voices, which some of that had to do with like the voices and the people I was following on social media. Some of that had to do with the moms maybe who are a couple of years ahead of me. But especially in the last like couple months, I have really tried to be mindful of surrounding myself with the voices in my life that are more positive, that are more like, that don't always just complain, that don't always just shine light and highlight the hard parts of being a mom, but that really focus on like the amazing, beautiful parts of it too, because there's so much of that. And that is something that is overlooked so much in our culture. So all to say with this podcast, I feel like I always kind of felt something, but I never knew what that something was going to be. And so I've noticed that in becoming a mom and in these early months and having to kind of like unlearn this mindset that I just kind of thought was normal, that I just kind of thought was expected, I have kind of like been drawn to the positive voices. I've been drawn to the moms who like make light of the non-ideal situations, the moms who don't complain all the time, the moms who bring their kids to do all the things with them and don't just like hide in their house and just be like, oh, my life is over for 18 years. I feel like I have been like drawn to those more positive voices. And this would have been something that I would have wanted early on as I was like unlearning this like misconception that I had in my brain. Like this was the encouragement that I would have wanted during the night feeds as I'm like, still in the grind, but still also trying to figure it out, trying to highlight the beauty and the amazing moments in it too. I think a lot shifts in motherhood when our mind goes from looking at everything like a chore to looking at everything as like an honor, of the honor that it is that we get to serve our family, that we get to serve our husband, that we get to serve our kids, that we get to serve our home, whatever it is in whatever capacity it looks like. I think a lot shifts in our minds when we like change that perspective, when everything goes from a chore to an honor, because then it's like our joy to get to do it, right? And I think something that is so commonly overlooked in our culture is the anointing for the mundane. I think it's really easy to highlight and to go after and to almost be jealous of sometimes, like the anointing that's great, right? That comes with a stage, that is seen, that is praised, that has a platform, or whatever it is. It's just like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. If I could ever be to that place one day, if I could ever speak like that one day, if I could ever lead worship like that one day, if I could ever lead a business like that one day, whatever it is, I feel like it's really easy to get to highlight those loud and those seen moments. But something that is so commonly overlooked is the anointing for the mundane, right? The anointing to wake up every single day and to serve our family and to love them well, to serve our kids, even if it's in our home, even if it's hidden, even if it isn't seen and highlighted. and all of the things. Because essentially, like, yes, it's easy for us to frame revival as these big, loud movements, right? But getting to love our family and faithfully serve them every single day, that's just as much revival, and we can do it in our own home. And so that is the part of motherhood that I feel like I am learning, and that isn't talked about enough. There's enough of the complaining, there's enough of the this is hard, and this is what my kid did today, and this is why our day was rough, and this happened in the grocery store, and then this, right? There's enough of that. We have enough of those voices, but what we don't have enough of is the people that are highlighting just the beautiful parts of motherhood that is revival, that maybe is hidden sometimes and maybe is seen sometimes and maybe isn't what we thought sometimes and maybe is what we thought sometimes. And it is just the best. And so my hope and prayer is through this podcast, through getting to have this outlet for conversations, that as we have different moms on here from, parenting all different kinds of kids, backgrounds, ages, all of the things, how we just kind of get to break down some of those walls, break down some of those misconceptions, and really dive into the beauty of what Jesus has created in motherhood. I think I've touched on social media a couple of times, but social media, like, what a time to be alive, right? Like, what a time to be a parent, all the things. It is so easy to just click on our phone and get to scroll and see what this mom is doing or how awesome this mom's life looks, or again, all of the complaints, which I feel like is almost attractive in our culture to like complain and be like, hey, ha ha ha, this was funny, this was hard, which I fall culprit to it too, right? Like sometimes it's easy to highlight those moments that are funny, that are not the most ideal, right? But I think this complaining mindset that we have in our culture is something that has become so common, especially around the idea of kids, especially around the idea of motherhood, which I think for me personally played into just this thought that I had, this conception that I had of what motherhood was going to look like, just because I saw all the complaints, I saw all of the like, this is so hard. I heard it from friends or moms who are older than me, right? Just like all of the complaining and how hard it is. And almost I feel like sometimes it's a competition to how hard your day was, right? To like, oh my gosh, this kid did this, and then that kid did this, and then all of this happened, and like, this was how hard my day was. And I think I've said this so many times, but what we need more of, and what's really going to reshape our minds on this, like how we view motherhood and how we get to treasure this gift in this season, is surrounding ourselves with the positive voices, with the beauty more so than the complaining, and realizing that it is such a joy and it is such an honor. Something that I have really learned over the past like 4 months, especially going into it with this like false mindset, is who you do it with matters. Like who you are a mom with matters. And of course, I say that in the sense of like who your spouse is, right? Like getting to have a solid team player that is with you, that is rooting you on, that is helping you when they can, right? Like your spouse obviously matters, and that's a given. But the part of it that's maybe a little bit like more chosen, or you could be more selective with, is the community around you, right? Like, of course, if you are being a mom, like in a mom group that is constantly complaining or constantly highlighting all of the bad things, like it's just going to become natural to have those thoughts, to highlight those things when they pop up throughout your day, right? But something that has really helped me, and something that has just been such a gift in the last, even 6 months, even a little bit more than even a little before Dawson was born, is really surrounding myself with moms who are also positive, who are not just like the complaining highlight reel, that are just more so, they're real, right? Like, I don't want to say this to be like only positive and like paint a false picture or anything like that. I think that you can paint reality and not just only paint a false picture and still be positive at the same time. But something that has helped me so much and has been such an encouragement to me is surrounding myself with moms who are also in the same mindset of like, this is a gift, this is such a joy, we get to do all of this with our kids. Yes, it takes a little bit more time, coordination, planning, all the things, but choosing to highlight like the beauty and the honor of it more so than the hard parts of it, and just complaining because that comes so naturally. I was just even thinking on like this idea of complaining, right? It's so common in our culture with motherhood, and also just in any season of life. Complaining is almost like funny and attractive sometimes. But with this idea of complaining, I was thinking of the Israelites, who they faced so many plagues when they were in Egypt, right? But the greatest plague they faced, the one that actually ended up keeping them captive and not allowing an entire generation to enter into the promised land, was complaining. Because when we complain, it keeps us captive in a lesser way of thinking. And so just as the Israelites were constantly complaining in the wilderness, constantly saying what they lacked, constantly saying what they wish they had, it literally caused an entire generation to miss out on the promised land because they were just stuck in this lesser way of thinking. And so I don't want to be that generation. I don't want to be that generation that just hops on social media, highlights the complaints, says what's hard about motherhood, says what our kids did today. I don't want to be that generation. I don't want to be the generation that misses out on something that is so promised and beautiful and such a gift because we were stuck in complaining. And so I hope that in and through this podcast, that as we highlight misconceptions, as we highlight the lies that we once believed about motherhood, or what we thought it was going to be, or what it was, what it isn't, whatever it is, as we really focus on highlighting the beauty in it more so than the hard parts in it. There are hard parts in it. I'm not trying to deny that, not trying to paint a false picture, but as we focus on highlighting the beauty and the truth in it, then we can really walk in the promise and the gift that it is. And so I also want this to be a note to the not yet mom. Like maybe you're here and you're like, great, talking about kids, talking about motherhood. I don't even know what any of that looks like. Here's all the misconceptions I believe, whatever it is. A note to the not yet mom, he honors faithful here. So whatever faithful looks like in this season, he honors your stewardship here. So hold it well. I know that it's probably hard. There's probably parts of this season that doesn't look ideal, right? But he honors your faithfulness here, and he honors stewardship here. So whether you're in the grind, whether you have littles at home, whether you're dreaming about having them one day and maybe wanting to break down some of the lies that you've heard in culture or that you've believed, first of all, if that's you and there's lies and things that you thought that you believed, I'm sorry. It's unfortunate, and I've been there too, of things that people have told me or things that I've believed just because of what I've seen. But I hope that this podcast is somewhere that you can come to just get to hear about the beauty of being a mother, even in the mundane, even in the grind. And yeah, that is my prayer. So glad you have joined us for Mom Chats podcast. We'll see where this takes us. Love you guys.